Today we're going to take a look at the BenQ W5850 DLP home theater projector. Now this projector was sent to me for review by BenQ. If this projector looks familiar, this is essentially the exact same projector as the W5800. The big difference here is that the 5850 has a shorter throw than the 5800. So in order to fill, for example, a 150-inch screen, the projector would have to be a minimum of 16.6 feet away from the W5800. So if your room is, let's say, only 15 feet deep, then you wouldn't be able to use that big of a screen. Now, with the W5850, you can fill a 150-inch screen at only 10.9 feet away. So this has a much shorter throw distance, which means that the lenses on both of these projectors are totally different. The 5800 has a 14-element all-glass lens, while the 5850 has a 16-element all-glass lens. However, everything else is the same as far as the looks, the size, and the connections. Around back, there are two HDMI 2.1 ins, one with eARC support, two USB-A inputs, an RS-232 in, a 3D sync output with compatible adapters, a LAN, USB service in, and an optical output. It's also a fairly heavy projector weighing 23 pounds. This is a DLP Laser projector using the 0.47 chip and does rely on upscaling to achieve its 4K resolution. Laser life is spec'd to last up to 20,000 hours. It's rated at 2600 ANSI lumens and can project up to a 200-inch screen size. It covers 100% Rec 2020 and 100% P3 color. It does come factory calibrated and includes the calibration report. You also get some documentation, the remote control and batteries, and the power cord. Now, as far as setup, I will be installing the projector in my dedicated theater using a 150-inch Screen Innovations Maestro 2 acoustically transparent screen with a gain of 1.1. Now the projector does have a motorized lens which will let you adjust the focus and then the zoom. So by going up and down on the remote control, you can zoom in or out. And as you can see, it's a fairly snappy little lens zoom on this. And by pressing left and right, this will let you focus the projector. And as far as focus uniformity, you can see that this is equally as sharp as it is on the outer edges as it is in the center of the screen, with very minimal, if any, chromatic aberration. And the projector also has a lens shift, so if you cannot get this, again, perfectly aligned with your screen, or you have this at an elevated position or at a lower position than your screen, then you can see the kind of shifting ratio that we have with the projector. So you can shift the image up, down, or left and right. So it's got horizontal and vertical lens shift. So getting this squared up with your screen should not be a problem. All right, so once you get the projector set up with your screen or your wall, let's go ahead and check out some of the settings in the projector itself. Now, of course, this is just your standard home theater projector. There are no smart apps or anything like that or smart features built into this projector. It's strictly just a projector. If you want to get the smart features, you will have to add something like an Apple TV, a Blu-ray player, or something like that in order to access that kind of features. Otherwise, this is strictly just a projector and it only produces image. Now, the first section that we have here is going to be your picture options. Options here, there's filmmaker mode and then there's HDR10. This also does support HDR10+. It does not support Dolby Vision. So for the duration of this video, I am going to keep this on filmmaker mode. There's fast mode. You can turn this on or off. This will activate the auto low latency mode. So if you are a gamer, you're going to want to keep that on. We have settings for brightness, contrast, color, tint, and sharpness, brilliant color, and then there is the advanced color settings here. We have color temperature tuning, advanced color temperature tuning. So if you do have the appropriate measurement tools or calibration tools, you can go ahead and calibrate that here. I'm not a professional calibrator. I do not have the tools, but if you do, this is where you would activate all of these settings. Under dynamic black, we have off, low, and then high. So if you want to activate the dynamic laser dimming to enhance your black levels, you would set that up here under dynamic black. For light source, there is normal mode, custom mode, which you can adjust the custom brightness slider from a 100% all the way down to 50%. And there's also eco mode as well. So if you want to keep this On low energy mode, you're going to want to put that on eco mode. HDR brightness, there is a slider for this. The default is at 0. If it's looking a little too bright or you want to get some enhanced black levels, you can always go down to a -2. If you want to get some brighter peak highlights, brighter image overall, you can go up to a +2. Then we do have the noise reduction slider. We have off, low, middle, and then high. Now under Cinemaster, we do have some advanced color options here. We have the color enhancer, which is at 9 by default. There is the flesh tone pixel enhancer 4K. So if you want to enhance your sharpness on the projector, you can go all the way up to a 19 or down to a 0 to keep it at its lowest and default setting. Motion enhancer 4K. So if you want to get smoother motion, you can activate this here. There is the local contrast enhancer, which will pick out specific points in the image to brighten up certain bright parts of the image and then also kind of darken down the darker parts of the image in different zones. Under global contrast enhancer, this will enhance the contrast of the overall image, while the local contrast enhancer will do it in different zones. And then something new, if you are coming from the W5800, is the dynamic tone mapping. So this one you can turn on or off for your dynamic tone mapping. Again, the 5800, if you are coming from that is missing the dynamic tone mapping option. Other than that, all of the settings between the 5800 and the 5850 are exactly the same. Under display, you can choose for different aspect ratios. So if you're using this with an anamorphic lens or an anamorphic screen or a cinemascope screen, you can change your options there. And again, this does support 3D. Under HDMI settings, we have auto, limited, full, or you can just keep this on, or I would just keep it on auto to keep it as simple as possible. And then here we have your other HDMI CEC controls. Under the audio section, we have the audio output. You can output the audio from either the optical out or the HDMI eARC. And then for audio output format, you can output as LPCM or RAW. So if you're using an Apple TV or a smart device plugged into the projector out to a soundbar or a receiver, you can choose to output your audio through the projector for pass-through. Then under installation, you can choose between front ceiling, rear, and then rear ceiling. Then under lens control, we've got your lens lock, we've got your focus and zoom, and then your lens shift. Now this does have 2D keystone correction, so if you cannot get this perfectly squared up with your screen, you can adjust the digital keystoning manually yourself. Obviously, it's going to be best if you do not use any of this digital keystone correction, because you will effectively be minimizing your effective pixel resolution. So the best way to install this is to get this perfectly squared up with your screen. Then we have the same thing here for corner fit. You can automatically choose what corner you want, and then just like the digital 2D keystone correction, you can fit your corner in here as well. This also has a masking option, which you can apply to the top, bottom, left, or right. Test pattern on or off. High altitude mode, you can turn this on or off. This will ramp up the fan at maximum speed. If you are at a higher elevated level, we have your baud rate, and then under your network settings, you can connect up via serial port, wired LAN, control 4, and then so on and so forth if you want to use this for IP control. Under system, we have your system settings. We've got your language, background settings, menu settings, light source information, operation settings, security settings, firmware upgrade, and then you can reset the projector back down to factory default. Now, I've been using the W5800 on and off for the past year, mostly for 3D content because the tone mapping wasn't all that great for HDR material. The 5850 does a much better job now that it has dynamic tone mapping on board. And as you can see, at the 4,000 and 10,000 nit demos, the tone mapping is recovering all that background detail. With the tone mapping turned off, it looks like the two horses are just floating out in space. In comparison to the 5800, the 5850 looks so much better in this demo. Keep in mind, if you are using the tone mapping on the 5850, you won't be able to use the local and the global contrast enhancer settings. So if you want some more control over the contrast, you'll have to turn off the tone mapping. The local contrast enhancer is supposed to control the contrast in up to 1,000 different zones. So you'll get better black level detail in the darkest areas and better bright detail in the highlighted areas. I didn't find this to have a drastic effect on picture quality, but there is for sure a difference between having it on and using it on the highest setting. With it off, the picture does look kind of flat in comparison. It's almost the same thing with the global contrast enhancer. Setting it to high will give you the brightest image at the expense of raising the black levels. Now you can use both those settings for HDR and SDR content, but if you are watching HDR content, you can also use the HDR brightness slider to add a bit more pop to the image. And again, the higher that you go up, the more the blacks start looking more gray. This also has laser dimming to enhance the black levels, although I didn't find it to be all that aggressive. Seeing all three demos side by side, the image does seem to be a bit warmer when turning on the dynamic black. Keeping it off, the image does look cooler and a little bit flatter. The blacks do look slightly better with the dynamic black on, and I could see it flicker from time to time when something would transition from dark to light. Otherwise, it was seamless for the most part. Now, this projector does support 3D. We do have a few different 3D modes in here that are active. You can keep this on auto, which will automatically select the proper 3D mode. It'll also support frame sequential, is what we're watching right now, frame packing top and bottom and side by side, or if you prefer not to watch 3D, you can convert 3D to 2D. Now, as far as 3D quality is concerned, this looked fantastic. I didn't notice any kind of crosstalk or any kind of issues like that. And one of the good things about having active 3D glasses, or just 3D glasses in general, since this projector doesn't have the greatest black floor, since the glasses are slightly tinted, it is going to darken the overall image, so that will enhance your black levels. And if you are having issues with inversion, or if your eyes are reversed, you can also activate the 3D sync inversion. You can turn this on or off, so this will swap your eyes left and right, or right and left. So you can correct the 3D effect there. And of course, if you find that your 3D image is a bit too dim, you want to brighten it up, you can always change your gamma selection. Or if you want to go down to the Cinemaster section, you can also turn on the local contrast enhancer or the global contrast enhancer. So as you can see, this will actually brighten up the image quite a bit. You are going to suffer for black levels, but it will brighten up the image and enhance the contrast. So there are some ways to really enhance the 3D experience overall. And of course, you will need 3D DLP link glasses. They are fairly cheap nowadays. You can pick them up on Amazon for like 30, 40, 50 bucks, depending on how many you purchase. So watching 3D on this, again, worked fine. It's plenty bright, especially on my 150-inch screen. And the crosstalk was non-existent. And of course, the 3D glasses will enhance your black levels on this DLP projector. At the time of this video, the W5850 is selling for $7,000. Comparing it to the W5800, having dynamic tone mapping provides for a much better HDR experience. Everything else seemed pretty much the same. Neither one was brighter than the other one, and black levels for both of them were pretty much the same as well. And I'd even say that this is the weakest part of both projectors. So blacks did come across more of a dark gray no matter what combination of settings I threw at it. Well, we've now got projectors from Valerian and AWOL and even Hisense that have really stepped up the game for DLP black levels that are very close to JVC and Sony's higher end projectors for a fraction of the cost. If BenQ could implement whatever black level technology those guys are using in this real home theater projector form factor with this quality lens, they'd be really tough to beat. I gotta also mention that if you are sensitive to the rainbow effect, you're probably gonna see it on the 5850. So black levels and rainbows aside, this was just as bright as my Sony Bravia 8. The colors looked great. It throws a really sharp, detailed picture, and of course, I do love that there is 3D still on board in the DLP world. So if you have a smallish sized home theater room and you want to get the biggest size possible without having to buy an ultra short throw projector, the BenQ short throw projector might just be the answer. Now, if you are interested in the W5850, there will be links down below in this video's description. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.